The third test gets underway at the Sydney Cricket Ground on Thursday. The crowd capacity at this stage is limited to 25%, but if we know anything about COVID-19, it is certainly a moving beast. To talk more on this, I'm joined by Chairman of the SCG, Tony Shepherd. Good afternoon to you, Tony.
Good afternoon, Julie.
Tony, the state opposition has said that it doesn't want the match to go ahead with crowds. There are many members of the public who agree. Can you understand the trepidation surrounding this New Year's test?
Look, I think people are spooked at the moment with the latest outbreaks in Sydney, and I can understand their concern, but we've had 150,000 through the SCG over the last 9 months without any problems. We had 10,000 at Bankwest Stadium a week or so ago, no problems at all. We have very strict protocols. We wouldn't proceed with it if we thought it was unsafe. But of course, at the end of the day, this is the government's call. The government has analysed it, looked at our procedures and protocols. Of course, they're very well aware of them. They're satisfied that it can be run safely with a crowd which is 25% of capacity. And we've got, as I said, significant protocols in place, significant checks. The SCG is an old stadium, so it's got 6 separate, almost virtually self-contained grandstands, and we'll be keeping people in their zone so they won't be wandering around. Whereas modern stadiums, of course, you've got 360 degrees movement. So I'm quite convinced that this will be safe, but more to the point, the health authorities and the government have signed off on it.
It's currently sitting at 25% capacity. Of course, that came down just this week from 50. Are we expecting to see that go up at all, or is it likely to stay where it is?
Look, that's entirely up to the government and the health officials. If it went up, we'd regard that as a bonus, but we're not banking on that. And as I said, it will depend, I guess, on the circumstances at the time.
Talk me through what steps are in place to ensure the safety of those attending the test. We know it's a huge space. We know how many it can hold. But what is the SCG, Cricket Australia, Venues New South Wales putting in place to ensure that this will be safe?
Well, look, we've had these procedures in place for a long time, for the last 9 months, so they're well honed now. But fundamentally, anybody who comes from a hotspot in Sydney, postcode, and who endeavours to get into the ground or will in fact be fined, and the police will be checking. There's no doubt about that. So I say to anybody from a COVID hotspot in Sydney, please do not attempt to come to the ground during the 4 or 5 days of the test. That would be a significant breach, and it would result in a fine. So that's the first thing, would be to keep out of the ground those people who are coming from an area which is identified as a hotspot in Greater Sydney. That's the first thing. Secondly, we will have social distancing between groups, between family groups mainly, with 1.5 metre separations. We will be encouraging everybody to wear a mask when they're moving around, when they're coming into the ground, when they're going to the bathroom, when they're going to get food and beverage. We'll be encouraging them to wear a mask. We will be providing free masks at the entrances so that people can avail themselves of that. We think that will be a sign that we are trying, to encourage them to wear masks, as the government has stipulated, indoors. And so we're confident that that will work. We have a significant security force there. Our marshals will be moving around making sure people are complying with requirements regarding not massing, not standing up in their seat or talking in the aisles for that sort of stuff. They're either seated or they're going to the bathroom or getting food and beverage. We'll be supervising the queuing to make sure that adequate separation is maintained. There'll be no cash transactions, of course. We've gone absolutely cashless now at the SCG. So we'll have a significant, monitoring. We'll have, clean hand hygiene. We'll have all of those sorts of procedures in place. We'll have, for example, we'll have canned beer. We're back to canned beer. Nobody will be pouring a live beer. You'll just get it in a can, so that again that hand-to-hand contact and is reduced significantly. So we've put these procedures in place over the last 9 months. They're working well. They've been enhanced for this particular test, and again, they have been approved by the Department of Health.
You know, I certainly take confidence in the fact that Sydney has successfully hosted the likes of the Big Bash, as you said. You know, we've had the NRL Grand Final, horse racing has continued. We saw the Everest in October. But the mention of the masks, I just want to talk to you about that, because strongly encouraged, to me, is that enough? Shouldn't that be the first thing that we're enforcing? Strongly encouraged is sort of a bit of a concern when we're really on the cusp of what could be something a whole lot more dangerous.
Yes, well, look, we're doing it in accordance with the public health order. The people arriving by public transport, for example, will have to wear a mask. When they're inside and in a confined space, you know, if they, you know, were in a dining room or something like that, they will have to wear a mask because that is the law. But when they're outside, it'll be entirely up to them whether they wear the mask, because the law at the current time says when you're in an outdoor environment, like this, you don't have to wear a mask. But we'll be encouraging them to wear a mask all the time in any event.
Okay, well, we do have to leave it there, Tony. As I think it was Andrew Barr, the ACT Chief Minister, has said today that pandemics, they last years, not weeks. So we do have to learn how to live and adapt in this world.
We do. We have to keep going. We can't just go to bed and pull the doona over our heads. We've got to try and keep going, but do it in a safe manner. There has not been a single transmission in a stadium in Australia since the pandemic started.
Let's hope we keep it that way. Tony Shepherd, Chairman of the SCG, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.